That Note with Parker Whirling.
We got Elijah Johnston for maybe the fourth time here on That Note.
I can't remember. It's either 3 or 4.
I think it might be 4 at this point, because last time I had you on was maybe around
like January.
Yeah, because I was bringing it back after taking a bit of a break.
That's right.
You were the first episode back, and I mean, happy to do that. But then you put out this album. I'm like, I got to bring it back again.
There you go.
Be a missed opportunity. Stupid Soul is out now via Strolling Bones Records.
It's true.
Came out June 20th.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations on the release.
Thank you.
How's it feeling right now? It's a couple weeks since the release.
Feels pretty good so far. I mean, definitely. It feels like people like it. Feels good to have it all out there. This is kind of where the hard work begins of actually promoting it, because you can only promote something so much when no one can listen to it. So, and it's also fun too, because it's like we're getting to see how people actually feel about the songs kind of on their own, rather than me being like, these are the singles, you should listen to this. So it's interesting to see kind of what people are resonating with now that they have the whole thing. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I was reading an article that you were in, or you did. It was a big takeover, I think.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring something up. Before you do that, you mind bringing the microphone just down a little bit? Because on the camera, it'll look like you just have a microphone for a mouth.
I see.
And I forgot to check that right before.
There we go.
But that is perfect.
There we go.
And actually, before we get into that, let's talk about the album you chose for my
right.
record collection, which is The War on Drugs.
Yes. So we always have to pick an album out of
Lost
Parker's
in the
shelf. But yeah, we're doing War on Drugs, Lost in the Dream.
That's right.
I really like this album a lot. I feel like I haven't come back to it in a while. When I saw it on the shelf, I was like, oh man, it's like kind of the perfect kind of like home recording album in the 21st century. He was kind of famously like, connected with Kurt Weill and a lot of that kind of moment of indie rock, where it was a lot of like a little bit of Bruce, a little bit jammy, a little bit of like electronic influence. And he kind of famously like made this album by himself in his home. And even when I look at the packaging, the album art, it's just all these kind of like beat up walls and old lamps and amps, and I'm like, man, this just looks like every house that I ever lived in Athens and the apartment I live in Atlanta. And yeah, so it's just, I don't know, it's a very like nostalgic album. I love that song Suffering, Eyes to the Wind, Lost in the Dream. So many good songs on this one.
Yeah, now that I think about it, it does remind me of the Zoo. We Bought a Zoo Records, Tommy Trotwine, where you recorded Stupid Soul.
Correct, yeah.
And as far as I know, pretty much all of your previous albums.
Yeah, we've done. I've been joking with people that this album is either the 4th or the 7th that we've ever made, depending on which timeline you believe in. So it's kind of like in Zelda, where it's like you've got the Fallen Hero timeline.
You pull the sword out and then you're older.
Yeah, you've maybe gone back in time. So yeah, it's the 4th full album I've done with Tom, and the 4th that we've done kind of in whatever home he was living in at the given moment. I guess a lot of Vampire was made at Tweed, which is a more of a traditional recording studio environment than his house. But yeah, so it's the fourth one we've done with him, and kind of what I would say is like the 4th full studio album we've ever made. There's 3 that exist on different streaming platforms and not on all of them, but they're sort of like, those are just kind of like demo collections from when I was a high school student, so it's a little bit hard to count it as the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I did some research, very light research, and found that you put out the hits in 2015, in which you covered Comfy and Nautica by Panda Bear.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, man, even in high school, you had impeccable taste.
I honestly think that my taste has gone backwards for most of my life. I think I peaked in terms of what I liked when I was probably 15 or 16, and it's just kind of been downhill since then. But yeah, no, I was a real I was trying to be like a real Bandcamp warrior in that period of my life. I was like, because I was really into like Alex G and Car Seat Headrest and that kind of stuff, and I was like,
In
I
high
bet,
school, you knew
yeah,
Alex G?
I bet
was
I
so
was like,
late to that.
I was like, I bet I could do that. Like those guys all got popular when they were my age, just like putting stuff on SoundCloud and Bandcamp. It didn't really work out like that in the moment, but you know, we got some good I got some good practice in. You know,
Right,
got some reps.
That's what it's all about, man. It's always it's an evolution. It never quite materializes the way you think it's going to.
Yep.
But you were talking about the way this album cycle is a little different now that you're on Strolling Bones, and you started to bring up how now that the album is out, that's kind of when the real work begins promotion-wise. So what's the difference now between, previous albums when you were independent?
I mean, I think for the most part, like in the past, making an album in and of itself was the goal, like just having it done and having it out. And so once it came out, it was like, great, we played a show and we showed everybody the album and we learned all the songs and that's it. Now we're going to take a break, And so getting to that point, getting to release date was like the only real motivating factor. And then it felt like, well, it's on to the next thing, And so, I don't know. I think that, like, I don't know. It's interesting now to be in a position where it's like, now that it's out, you have all these people around the country, around the world that can hear it and sometimes are, and you're having to like go and find. It's just like you're building a team. It feels less like I'm promoting something and more of like I'm building a network of people that like what I do, because I think that's a lot of modern music promotion nowadays. Is it's less like passively getting people to just like hear a song a couple times and go like, okay, yeah. It's more of like you have to build almost like a cult. I mean, it sounds strange to put it that way, but it's like you're having to build like a network, a team, just like a group of people that are really bought into whatever it is that you're doing,
Yeah. Why do you think that has happened, that change? Because it feels like that's not just for you. I feel like that's kind of everybody.
I mean, everybody has to be like a cult artist now. There's like literally zero monoculture in the world anymore. And so there's like nothing that has the center of gravity at any given moment. So you're basically competing with every single other thing in the world at any given moment. And it's less of like, I want to cast a wide net and just sort of plug a bunch of people in for 5 seconds. It's more of like you have to find the people that are going to be engaged forever, or for a long time, because that's a much more sustainable thing, I think, in today's world, where it's like you just have to find when everybody has everything competing for their attention. A lot of people don't realize that what they want is something that's going to hold their attention, that they can just sort of like latch onto and be like, I like that, so I want to pay attention to that. I want to tap into that, however you do it. So yeah, I don't know. It feels like that's the goal a lot of times now with the music, with the promo thing, is like just getting people bought in.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head about there being very minimal of monoculture. Like back even 10 years ago, I feel like everybody knew that Bastille song. And they weren't even like a huge, or Walk the Moon. Everyone, you couldn't escape those songs.
Definitely.
I can't think of even like the biggest stars right now. Like I think about Charlie XCX or Sabrina Carpenter. There's definitely a big group of people who don't know Man-Child, who don't know Apple or Von Dutch, or like they just, even though they're some of the biggest stars in the world, like a summer hit is like, it's much more elusive nowadays, and it does feel like things are going towards cult status and you can be like anyone can be famous
Yeah.
in a certain micro niche internet culture way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the thing is like you'll have people that are selling platinum records and making massive waves, and then they are like not. You'll talk to any random person, and they're just like, you'll see an article on Facebook of like this massively famous person did X, Y, or Z, and the top like 20 comments are just like guys on Facebook like with the sunglasses on, and they're like in selfie in the front seat of their car, or like picture of them with a fish, and they're like, I don't know who this is. Who? Why am I supposed to know or care about this? And it's like, that's Sabrina Carpenter. Like,
Right.
that's one of the most famous people in the world, and there's just always going to be a large amount of people that are like, I don't know, I don't care, and that's just I don't think you can put the toothpaste back in the tube on that type of like movement in our culture that we've kind of had. So it's just kind of like, if that's the situation, if that's the rules, then you just have to be ready to adjust and be like, I got to find the people that like what I do.
Yeah.
And they're out there. It's just a matter of like, can I get in front of them, you know?
How's that adjustment period been going, taking this new approach into like the marketing and the promotional side of this record?
I think it's been nice, because it's been nice and hard at the same time, because it forces you to reckon a little bit with like your ego and your perception of yourself. Cause like, I don't know, I find it very easy to get, and I think a lot of people like us are the same, where it's like, it's so easy to be like, well, I made something good, so why don't you know?
Right.
And it's like, how on earth is anyone going to know if you didn't tell them about whatever it is, And it's like, you can't, like, we just don't live in a world anymore of, I sent my demo to a guy with a blog, and now I'm opening the big show at the Bowery Ballroom in front of 800 people. It's like, that's not how life works anymore. And I don't know. I just like, it's fun because I think I've maybe said this same thing to you in the past, but I've said it to other people, where it's like, don't change the art for anybody, but the way you get it in front of people, just do whatever has to happen, basically. Like, whatever's going to work. Like, as long as you're not sacrificing the actual creative intent of what you do, then whatever, that's fine.
Yeah. There can be a pity party mentality sometimes in this day and age. I mean, in any day and age, but you could sit there and you could complain about the algorithm's not picking me up, I'm not getting shows, whatever. But there are so many opportunities to make things unique or for yourself, that like what you said, you don't have to compromise your creativity.
Yeah.
Like the classic one is, I don't want to make TikToks, like I don't want to do reels for my music, that like waters it down. But it really doesn't. And I think we're in a a post cringe era when it comes to that stuff, because it's just so widely accepted, and you don't have to do it, but it's helpful. And if you do, you can find a way to do it without hating yourself.
Yeah.
And you'll end up finding that it goes back to your point about finding the people who are going to be the type of people who are interested in your stuff, because most likely your song's not going to end up on a top 40 radio station, and you're going to start playing these big places. And even if for some reason it did end up on a top 40 radio station, that doesn't guarantee anything anymore.
Nope.
People with hundreds of thousands of listeners on Spotify will go play, like, Red Light Cafe. No disrespect.
No disrespect
at all. But it just is not an indicator of your true fans.
I played one of the stupidest shows of my life at the Red Light Cafe once.
What was it?
Well, I was trying to help out some people that were touring, and they were both really good. And honestly, Red Light was probably the best place for them to play sound wise. But it was a tough scene. I wore a bathing suit on stage.
Oh no.
I wore like my short,
When was this?
probably 2018,
Okay.
19 maybe. No, 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a theme, or was that just
No, it was just the summer.
okay, cool.
It was bad.
Yeah, there is a swimming school right next door.
I
kids,
forgot
aqua
about
tots,
that. You're
yeah.
right. You're totally right.
You probably looked like you just came from work.
I probably did. Yeah.
Let's get into the actual songs
Yeah.
of the record, because I love this album. I've loved all of your albums. This one, I feel like we're getting simultaneously a wider breadth of your songwriting, but also a narrower focus on a sound. That's how it feels to me. What, in your perspective, how does this record, what would its personality be to you?
I think that's a good way to put it, because, the whole mantra when we made the last album, Hometown Vampire, was we were kind of like, we almost want to make it sound like every song is a different band.
Right.
This time, that was definitely the opposite of the goal. Like, the goal this time was the direct opposite of that. I still don't think we got there in terms of like it being completely cohesive or whatever, but I also don't really think that matters very much.
That can always be a moving target too.
Right. I mean, it's just, to me, it's like I listen to it and I'm like, this sounds like one unified theme album.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is one unit, and I like that. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a good way to think about it in terms of like, I think what I was willing to try in terms of writing songs was larger. I think that I'm very much someone that for a long time I felt like I had writer's block because but I realized I just like wasn't trying to do anything different. And this time around, there's several songs on the record that I wrote in a different tuning, like a guitar, like very basic, just like the open D guitar tuning.
Right.
But I had always kind of like, I knew how to use it, but I just never used it very much. And so I got to a point where I wanted to commit to like, I'm going to like keep my guitar tuned differently than I normally do, because it kind of makes me feel like I have to relearn how to play.
Right.
And when I was learning that way, I was like, oh, this is a tuning that forces me to play very simply and play really focused on melody and rhythm rather than like, I'm someone that if left to my own devices, I'll put like 25 chords in every song and I'll just make it more convoluted than it needs to be, just because I like that kind of stuff. And so it forced me to kind of like play a little bit more repetitively and a little bit more like just like holding it down. So I don't know. I think that helped shape a lot of the song, or the chunk of songs it's only like 3 or 4 that I wrote that way, but I think they were kind of what helped solidify, like, I want songs that are really catchy. I want to like make things that feel like they could resonate with everyone or with lots of people that feel like they are. Because what I was interested in at the moment was pop music and really catchy music and really repetitive music and like songwriting that was really about just like catching a wave rather than like I have to tell you the most intricate story of all time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of like where a lot of the mindset was in the writing process for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's such a great example of making things not more difficult for yourself, but giving yourself these kind of, I don't want to say obstacles, but yeah, just, switching things up. Sometimes you get a little comfortable doing things the same way. And when you force yourself to get out of your comfort zone by changing a tuning or giving yourself like a theme for a song off the bat that narrows in your focus, it can force you to come up with something that you otherwise wouldn't have come up with if you, had every option on the table
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Was there a turning point in this process, writing or production, where you felt like, oh, okay, I'm getting the sound of this now? Was there a particular song that led you in that direction?
I think both in writing and recording. There's a song on the record that's called Instant Replay. That was
dude.
really like, in the writing, I remember that being like a pivot point where I was like, okay, that was one of the songs, the open tuning songs, the like trying to think differently. I don't remember exactly if I wrote that first or Ideas, but I know that that was the song that made me kind of like open my brain up of like having a sense of like a focused, repetitive nature, and like phrases that get kind of looped and repeated in ways that I'm just someone that I often write songs. I call it like writing in a straight line. Like it goes from A to B and it never necessarily repeats itself. And it might kind of like just have like, rather than an A, B, C structure, it's like A, B, C, D, E, F,
Right.
And
Kind of feels like Syrup is that way a little bit,
yeah,
right?
definitely. And I mean, a lot of the songs on Vampire, like the chorus would repeat, but then the lyrics would change, or like stuff like that. And writing Instant Replay, I was like, I'm gonna write this song. Like I wrote it. I was getting kind of through the process of writing it, and I was like, I'm gonna say the same word. Like I'm gonna say the same like half a syllable like 9 times in a row, and just like, because that's just what feels good right now, is like this odd songwriting structure that I'm not used to. And then I ended up kind of same thing on Ideas, like that was like a big point of that song, was like, I don't care that this sounds a little odd to some people at first glance. It's like, I had like people tell me like, I don't really like this.
That's
like
so crazy, bro. I have told you so many times that is my favorite song, even before you put it out.
I appreciate it. But I understand. At first I was kind of pissed off, and I it was annoying, but it is a thing where it's just like, I generally feel like if I put a line in the sand and like decide to do something, it's gonna always, any artist you like that decides like, I'm gonna just kind of do something on purpose, there's always going to be a contingency of people that hear it and are like, that is not for me.
Right.
And it kind of feels a little bit, you're like, okay, I'm not setting out to piss anyone off, because that's a really stupid way to live or make music, is being like, I'm gonna
yeah, I want to be as avant-garde.
I want to make enemies. That's
Right.
dumb. But it's more like, if you do anything that feels like it's pushing someone's buttons in the wrong way, I'm like, well, then there's probably someone else who it's pushing their buttons in the exact right way.
Yes.
Like I got
equal and opposite reaction.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of music that I've loved in the last couple years that when I first heard it, like McGee, the Cameron Winter album.
Dude, we need to talk about Cameron
Two things
Winter.
I love that when I first heard them, I was like, absolutely not. Like, doesn't click with me at all. And then I was like, let me give this another shot. And then I was like, okay. And then the third or fourth time, I'm like, I'm in love with this. Is great. I'm really enjoying this. This is exactly what I want. And sometimes it just takes like, but those are two artists that they put a flag in the ground and they're like, this is what I do. This is what I sound like, and you can take it or leave it. And I love that. And I think that like, Instant Replay was a moment where I was like, I feel like I'm putting like something of like, this has my name on it, and this is kind of my thing for right now. And same thing when we recorded the song, was that we had some different approaches, and we had, the recording was, that song was really fun. There was a lot, but it was fun, but also stressful, and like, we did all this experimental stuff with the drums, and the drums are actually like pitched way down. Like, we recorded them at like 3 times as fast.
Whoa.
And then slowed them down with a tape machine. And, all this kind of like really nice, fun, enriching studio experience. And then I remember we were like mixing it, and we got this mix of it that sounded so good, but it like felt really wrong. And I didn't know how to, I was like, Tommy, I don't know how to tell you this, that like this sounds perfect. And I'm kind of thrown off by that. Like when we recorded
This was instant replay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because it had the final mix of it, and the way it sounded when we were making it was just this kind of like onslaught of noise and like overwhelming kind of like hazy, you're kind of like moving through fog a little bit through the instrumental. Like it's a very atmospheric kind of instrumental. And then we got to a point where it sounded like very pop, kind of like thumping, and I was just like, could we like get it a little
Dirty it up a bit?
kind of back there? And what we landed on, I'm really happy with. And even in the recording process, that was kind of also a nice moment of like, this is what this album's going to sound like. Like it's going to sound rich, it's going to sound full, it's going to sound like acoustic guitars and big kind of like, I don't care if you don't like this. Like we're putting the big synth on it, you know. Like we're doing it.
Yeah.
We're
pushing the button.
Yeah.
Dude, what is that sound at the end of that song?
Yeah.
That happens? It sounds like some like drums are being like sucked into the ether or something. I don't know what it is.
We took the drums and Gid had like a fill that he played to kind of wrap it up. And we basically, my understanding was that Tommy went into the waveform, because like when you're, if you're listening at home, you don't know this. When you record music, there's like waveforms. I'm seeing them right now on the computer that's recording this podcast.
Yeah, they're right here.
And it's just truly like the waveform of the file of the sound that you're making. And the way computers work now is like you can just take that and it's like an image, and you can cut it and paste it, and you could make a collage almost visually with it. And so he basically went in and took all of the drum hits, and like he would kind of like take a half a second and reverse it, and he would take another half a second and like put it 2 seconds earlier than where it really happened. So basically he made this just very insane mess of like the drums are kind of like ducking in and out, going frontwards and backwards at the same time, shifting in and out. So that's basically what that he did that with the drums and with my voice. And so there's like this stuttering kind of like it literally does, you're right, it sounds like basically that the instruments are being sucked into a black hole.
Yeah, it's like sucked in and then back out and then sucked in again.
And we played it recently for the first time live, and Gid basically figured out how to fairly accurately recreate the sound just with his drums. And I was like, I don't know how you just did that, but
that's awesome.
I'm glad you figured it out.
That's really cool. There's another thing that Gid did on, I wrote it down here on, what is it called? I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah.
And he does like, I don't know, what I love about this album is there's a lot of moments where I'll just be casually listening and then like my ears perk up. Mm-hmm. I'm like, whoa, what was that? Like the thing we just talked about in Instant Replay. And in I Know What You Did Last Summer, he does like this half fill. Mm-hmm.
In between the verses?
Yeah. He like does a fill, but like kind of just stops. Mm-hmm. And it's really ominous.
Dude, that's a great way to put it. It's ominous. I mean, the song is spooky. I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's, based on a horror movie and of the same name, and it's all about like feeling like there's someone kind of watching you over your back. And you're right. It almost creates that sensation of like, feels like someone ducks their head in a room, and then when they see that you see them, they duck back out.
Right.
It's almost like that, but he's with the drums. So much of that, that song in particular, I actually had very little to do with the way it sounds, and I kind of like love that.
Sweet.
Like it's the most uninvolved in a recording of my own song that I've probably ever been.
Yeah. And in what way? Like, how did that go?
I just like had the demo, and I had no idea of what I wanted it to sound like. Like I had no concept. just the writing, a lot of the songs on the record I had like really specific, like I want XYZ, ideas, Oxygen, Double Fault, like those were all songs where I was like pretty adamant about like it's got to be like this. That one I was kind of like I'm all ears, and I was like the only thing I know I want is it should probably have some piano, and that's about all I got. And I was thinking it would be more like a ballad. We kept joking about if there's going to be drums, maybe there should be like a we kept joking about putting like a UK two-step garage beat at the end of the song, like, make it sound like Burial or whatever, all this kind of stuff.
That would be cool.
It would have been interesting, but eventually I was like, I'm just going to play piano, and I really barely know how to play the piano, and the song is in like the easiest key to play keys in. And so I was just kind of like barely playing, and I did a vocal, and I was like, that's about all I got.
Nice.
And then Gid and Tommy were like, okay, so definitely want to do some drums. Let's just try. And they instantly just basically played like the simplest possible thing that they could think of. And I was like, okay, that actually sounds really good. And then they did it, and then Tommy did all those guitars, and that was it. Like, that's all the song is. It's just like, the dynamic flow of the song, and then there's just not many instruments, and so yeah, it's like every element adds like a little bit to that layer of there's something amiss.
Well, it almost feels in some ways the exact opposite of baby bands, which is seemingly complicated in terms of harmonies and stuff like that. There's a lot going on, and also opposite in terms of it's a little bit of a happier sounding vibe, a very Beach Boys inspired thing going on. And we can definitely get into your inspiration, your connection to Brian Wilson.
Sure. Big ups.
Rest in peace. Yeah, you're actually how I found out that he had passed was your Instagram story.
It's sad.
It is sad. It's okay. I know last time you were here, it was David Lynch.
An hour talking about David Lynch.
I know. No regrets. He deserved it.
No, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, first time I heard that, I'm like, oh, Brian Wilson is all in this. So with that song in particular, were you going into it with that thought of, I want to try to tap into a Beach Boys lane, or did it just end up that way?
I think that we landed there because we knew we wanted like a 60s kind of garage rock, like sort of sweatiness to it. And then the more that we kind of worked on it, I was like, oh, I've got these ideas for these harmonies. And then, I don't know, the harmonies kind of became the point. Like the vocal stuff, the Beach Boys of it all, like kind of became the purpose of the song. And it also just felt funny, conceptually speaking, to have the hook of the song be like, other people don't know how to sing. And so we're going to just sing our asses off as much as we can. Like, just it felt like a funny joke to be like, we're going to be singing a lot. So yeah, I don't know. I think that, we really I really liked doing that one just because it was the most like kind of cosplay that we got to do, where, it's like, Tom's going to make the drums sound like that. And he was like, I'm going to pan them to one ear because that's just how we're going to do it. And I was like,
yes,
great,
dude.
That's fine, And so, I don't know, it had like that kind of retro, a helpful thing that Tommy told me one time years ago when we were making the song Horse Girl back in the day was, that song is like this kind of goofy fake country song that has that kind of Brad Paisley, Keith Urban sort of guitar sound to
featuring
it.
Zach Crook.
Right. And Tommy's mindset was, he was like, if we're going to do it, this song is funny. If we're going to do it, we got to do it perfectly. Like, if we're going to make an homage to this genre and we're kind of making a joke, we got to nail it. Yeah. And he was like, if it's a poorly executed joke, no one finds it funny. And he was like, but if you spoof something and you spoof it perfectly, it's a lot funnier. And I was like, that's actually a really good point. And I don't think of Baby Bands as being any sort of spoof. It's not a joke song, like, but it is certainly a thing where we were like, if we're gonna do this sound, let's just do it. Like, let's just lean in and accept that this is this kind of song, and just feel proud of it, you know?
Yeah. Is there a song on this album that you think about now that you are the most proud of? I know it's a tough one sometimes.
Yeah.
And it can change.
I mean, to some extent, I would say, I mean, you know, talked about Instant Replay. Definitely love how that one shook out. The song Double Fault near the end, I feel really happy with, just because it was kind of like the big... it was one of those songs where the writing of it, I felt really proud of how kind of what I wanted out of the song and what I wanted it to sound like and what the dynamics were, and how it was kind of an unusual approach as far as writing a song is concerned, and how it's kind of different for me, because it's very much like, you know, I wrote it one line at a time, like the sort of intuitive Jeff Tweedy thing where you just sort of write based on what sounds good, like you don't, and you kind of let it be like a Rorschach test, like I can make sense of what that meant later on. And it's also, I was very proud of myself because it's the only time, I don't know how to play the drums even a little bit. I'm very bad at them. And obviously I have a brother who is uniquely gifted, but it's the only time where I've ever like told him what to do on the drums on that outro.
Yeah.
Where I was like, play more notes. I was like, just like stutter on the snare, and he was like, okay.
So where's this coming from?
Right. And I was because I had it all. It was the kind of thing where it's like, I get proud of two different things. I get very proud of stuff like I Know What You Did Last Summer, where I go in and I'm like, I've got no idea what I want. I just want the song executed well, and that can look however we need it to look. And when those guys can take it to that level of just like, wow, that is not where I thought we were. That, like, Everything We Hold Dear is another example of me just being like, I've just got the song. I don't know what I want to do, and I'm very open to what we want to do and how we want to shape it. And that kind of stuff always blows me away when we nail it and we finish it and we're like, great, that was not at all what we were planning on, but it's better than what we could have imagined. And I also get very proud of stuff like Double Fault or Ideas, where it's like I come in and I feel like I've built it in my brain and I'm able to kind of download it into the real world and be like, that is exactly what I wanted. And that's just a very validating feeling.
Yeah, it's such a fine line when it comes to making music, of understanding when a song should be that sort of blueprint in your mind downloaded into the real world, and when it should be very malleable and able to change depending on what ideas are floating around. And that in itself is a gift of being able to keep an open mind, but sometimes close a little bit when you have that vision of what it's supposed to sound like. It's very weird, like walking on a tightrope kind of thing.
Definitely.
I want to give, some love to Drew Beskin. We've talked about Tommy. We've given love to Tommy, given love to Gideon. But yeah, I'm curious about Drew. Drewby. What was his his role in this, and what were some of the your favorite moments with him on this record?
I think the most intense thing that he added to this album was, there's a song on the record called Days Like These that's kind of in the middle. And before we recorded it, Drew was like, I don't think we should record that song. He was like pretty frank. He was like, this feels like it could use some work. And I was like, you got to trust me on this one. Like, don't get demoitis. Like, it's all good. Just let me try to figure this out.
Did he want to keep the demo?
No,
he just didn't want it.
He couldn't figure out what the goal of the song was, because it's just, my thing is like when I write a song and I record it just on my phone to show to people, I'm just trying to show someone a blueprint. I'm not. Right. I hate I don't listen to demos very much. I don't listen to rough mixes very much. Like I'm very much like I want to have the idea in my head and I want to be engaged when I'm doing it, but I don't want to be that concerned about that. But he is not quite that way. He's kind of the opposite. He gets very into demos and very into like figuring everything out. And it makes it, he's a very useful person to have around for that reason. And with that song, he correctly located something where he was like, this song is too long. And he was like, there's a verse here that doesn't need to be here. So originally Days Like These was going to be like 5+ minutes. It had a whole, because the chorus of that song is pretty long. The bridge is pretty long. The verses are both long at the beginning and the end. And there was there's a third verse kind of in the middle of the song. And he was just like, this isn't necessary. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. And he was like, what are these lyrics? Like, are these lyrics important to you? And I was like, no, not really. And he was like, these lyrics sound like you needed filler lyrics because you just felt like you needed a second verse. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's actually pretty true. And so we had recorded it, drums and bass and guitars, and a rough vocal with that verse in it. And he just sat down with Tommy and was like, told him where to click there,
Mm-hmm.
and delete it. And
slide
so
everything else back
he
over.
did that. And so he's actually credited as one of the writers of that, as the other writer of that song. And I think it might be the first time someone that I know of has ever had like a subtractive songwriting credit.
Yeah.
Where but legitimately it was just like, this is a totally different song. He was like, first verse, chorus, guitar solo, like a Tom Petty song. And I was like, oh, that is how a lot of Tom Petty songs go, is the solo happens
Never
after
thought
the
of
first
that
chorus.
until right now.
Right. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. And the song made way more sense that way and felt way cooler. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
And he just has that. I mean, same thing with Baby Bands. Like, Baby Bands is kind of one long verse, and then it's a chorus, and then a bridge. And he was like, this song is too long. Like, just have it be, you don't need 2 verses. Just have one verse that's a little longer. And I was like, oh, that's actually not a bad idea. And so there's a lot of things like that I think he brings to the table, where he just has like a really interesting mind for like song architecture. And because he's willing to challenge you on basically anything, like, he's willing to tell you anytime he doesn't think something's working. And because he's always willing to throw out the idea of change, there are a lot of times where I'll be like, no, that is hard and fast, not going to change. And then there are other times where I'm like, actually, now that you've questioned me on it, I don't know where exactly I'm standing on this. So maybe it's worth poking it and just seeing if the architecture of the song needs to shift around a little bit.
Yeah. That's such a cool skill to have. And I don't really know how one goes about acquiring it. You know, I feel like it's a really taste based thing.
He's just, I think it's just a matter of like, you have to have done the work. And he's like,
you have to have written a million songs.
He's
you have
written
to constantly listen to music.
He's written a million songs. He's heard every song that has maybe ever existed. And he, he just like knows how to be like, that's not it right now.
Yeah.
And I trust him enough to be like, yeah, okay, let's try it. You know?
It sounds like songwriting structure, that architecture you're just talking about, was a big thing on this album for you, in terms of maybe throwing away some unknown beliefs, or just maybe not beliefs, but instincts you had, and kind of trying to put those aside and really go with the flow.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, I think, finding the balance between you don't want everything to be so like impersonal and so like, I'm just trying to build a better machine. You don't want to think about it. It's just like, that's no way to look at art. But there is the conceptual level of just like, how do I get better? How how do I make something better than the last thing I made? And I don't know. I feel like art is a lot about process as much as it is about results. And I feel excited. I feel more excited when my process is a little disrupted. Oftentimes we land with fairly similar result. Like, I don't think that anyone's listening to this album and being like, wow, I didn't know he had that one in him. I think it's a lot of people being like, that's like, I've heard a lot of good feedback from people that like my music where it's like the same thing, but it's gotten better. And I'm like, great, that's fine. You know,
yeah.
Cool. That works for me. But it took different roads to get there, which is what makes it more fun for me.
Right. And maybe that's what the previous album kind of, you got to experiment a little bit with the changing things up and doing things that maybe were a little outside of your normal sphere.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Downtown Living is still one of my favorites, man.
Yeah. I mean,
I love that record.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask about how you got connected with George Sr.
Yeah. So
I read in that, the big, I'll give him a shout out. What is it? Big Takeover.
Big Takeover. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing is like George, who owns the label that I'm on. And if you get the album on vinyl, plug, you get a little note that has this story on it from his perspective, because he does that now for the label. He writes little like
no way
introductory notes for every record. So
that's cool.
Put a little slip in the packaging. But yeah, I mean, he was, just someone that I knew lived around town that owned a record label. And I was like, that's not too many of those guys.
Yeah.
So I had been kind of told, like, heard through the grapevine, like, you should talk to them and try to see if Strolling Bones would be interested in putting out your music. And I was like, okay, like, I've got nothing else going on. So, that's a good idea. And so I basically took the Hometown Vampire record, and it was not mixed yet, or it was real rough stages, and I printed it onto a CD, and I wrote a little letter, or just a little note, and was like, this is what I've done. And I almost like wrote my musical resume, basically, and I just like put it in an envelope and dropped it off at their office. And then like a couple months later, I was working at a white tablecloth kind of restaurant in Athens, slinging steaks, and he wasn't my table, but I saw he was there. So I told the server, I was like, when the appetizers come out, tell me, because I gotta go talk to them. So I brought their appetizers. I was like, oh, George, I didn't see you there. Hey, wow, crazy.
Whoa, fancy meeting you here.
And he was like, let's talk soon. And I was like, all right. And so, yeah, it worked out, and I ended up on the label, and it was it's been a nice time ever since.
That's so classic. That's such a classic story, dude.
Yeah.
I know. I read that. I'm like, I got to get you to tell that on the pod. Mm-hmm. And I think it's such a important thing that everyone should know is, like, when you see the opportunity, you just got to take it. It's just like what we were going back to earlier. It's talking about, you can't expect to just put something out and everybody come and find you.
No one is waiting around to make you what you want, And I hate talking like that or like thinking like that, because it's like, it's so easy, I think, nowadays to turn any conversation about career or promo into like, you sound like a guy on like a Millionaire Mindset
Gary
podcast.
V.
Yeah, you sound like one of those guys that's like, I wake up at 4 a.m. I'm kicking your butt.
I run 3 miles.
I run 5 miles before and you're just like, shut up.
Yeah.
Because that's not the point of all this. But I think in a more general, like, philosophical sense, I feel just kind of like, no one knows that I want something unless I tell them.
Yeah.
And if I would like for my music to expand beyond, what it is now or what it had been or whatever, if I want anything to come out of it, I have to try to do that. And it's just like, if the opportunity is there, take it.
Seize it. Seize the day.
Yeah.
Well, Elijah, that's a great note to end on, going into the last 5.
Into the bowl. Let's do it.
There might be a few new questions,
All right.
hopefully. Courtesy of Spencer Thomas, actually. He came up with a couple.
He's
But
always got big things to think
he
about.
does. And if there's one you've already answered and you don't want to answer it again, you can just pick another one.
Okay. I like now that they're all kind of
Yeah.
easier.
The other ones were getting too easy
dusty.
to rip, dude. People
Yeah.
would just fucking rip them.
What kind of food would your music be?
Guess who wrote that
love-
one?
Spencer?
Yeah.
I love this question. I have no idea how to answer it. I mean, I don't know. I'll say this. I think that my own palate in a lot of ways is fairly, like, I know what I want. I know what I like. And there's a lot of days where I'm like, I just want something really salty with a lot of sauce on it.
Mm-hmm.
I want that BLT. I want that big veggie burger. I want those wings. You know what I mean? I want those onion rings. Like, I want something that's just going to make me feel good. So I guess to some extent, it's almost like I think of my music as being a little bit comfort food music, because I don't often feel like I'm trying to reinvent the wheel. But I think I want to give people the best version of that kind of thing. So I guess that's kind of what I would look at.
It's a great
if you had
answer.
to compare it to food, because that's a lot of what I like in food, and a lot of what I like in music, and what I like in other music is like stuff that I'm like. There's a lot of stuff I like in music that is really challenging, but a lot of what I go back to is like, I'll listen to the noise record, I'll listen to the crazy jazz record. Like, I love all of it, and that expands my mind. But like, end of the day, I'm just trying to hang out. Like, I'm putting on the REM playlist. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm listening to.
Yeah, something that's a classic.
Yeah,
That, like, at the end of the day, you can travel the world, but you might want to come back home and have a good old hamburger.
precisely.
Great answer. Let's do
There you
number
go.
2.
All right. Dream 3-band bill. I think that I would say I'm going to grab a different one because I don't know how to answer it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's okay. You've earned the right to change them up. You've been on this pod enough times to earn that.
Yeah. Song that I wish I wrote. Oh boy. There's a it's real. I don't know why I wish I could write songs like this. There's a Pavement song that I really love,
dude.
called Trigger Cut. It's from their first album.
Yeah,
And it's got that thing where it's so catchy. It makes me feel, it just feels so cool. And I have no idea what the song is about. The lyrics don't make any sense grammatically speaking, and it doesn't matter. And I just sometimes struggle with, like, I'll try to write a song and that kind of writing doesn't come naturally to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I get so jealous of people that can write songs like that, where it's just like, it's so effortlessly out there, and but then it still sounds like approachable, and it sounds like a cool rock song, and you're just like, dang it.
Yeah.
I wish I had that. Wish I had
Dude,
one of those. And
I'm on record answering that question also with a Pavement song.
Wow.
Spit on a Stranger.
Another
from the Terror
great
Twilight album.
great example of,
It's like a perfect song.
it's amazing. It's insane. And it's like the catchiest, prettiest song ever, and it's literally called Spit on a Stranger. It's like,
Yeah.
it's the perfect encapsulation of what's great about that band.
Yeah. Did you see their documentary?
I did.
What did you think?
I loved it.
I enjoyed it, man.
I thought it was so crazy, but I really liked it.
It was wacky.
Yeah, big fan. What is on my musical rotation? I mentioned them just a moment ago, but I have been on a real REM deep dive. I just like, they've always been a band that I really love, but then I got their like book that's kind of like their band biography last year, and I really have enjoyed reading it. And it's just like, you can just kind of like, I got like 20 million albums and all these songs, and you can just like put your hand in the jar like this and just pick out a song that's gonna blow your mind. So I've been listening to a lot of that. Been listening a lot to that Cameron Winter album.
Dude,
Fabulous stuff.
Yeah. So you said you were a little repelled by it at first.
I think I just didn't get the voice. I just didn't know.
For sure.
I didn't get it.
It's
and
a little
I was like, I
off-putting at
don't like.
first.
And also the first song on that album is probably the most confusing. It's the Rolling Stones song. And it's just like the most like,
It's a strange one to start with.
I have no clue how to like lock into this, but I really like that song now, and I like all those songs on that record because it's just very. I was with a group of people recently, and he came up, and the crowd that I was with was very divided on whether they liked him or not, and people were arguing about it, and I was like, this is awesome that like people still make music that makes people argue, like,
right.
because there's so much stuff that you can just shrug at. And
right,
and
yeah,
everyone,
there's
that
no
no one
opinions to be
cares,
had.
that nobody, the people are like, oh yeah, it's on like my vibes playlist. Like you're not adding Cameron Winter to the good vibes playlist.
No.
You're putting it on if you want to think about it or listen to it, and it might piss you off. It pissed me off at first, but now I think
Do you
it's
like
great.
Geese? His
I got
band?
into it. Yeah, it took me a second, but
Okay.
it was funny because I knew that band, and then when people were like, "This guy is that band," I was like, "Oh," and then I listened to the band again, and I was like, "Oh, this is even more confusing now." But
Right.
and I like it. I like it. It's
Dude,
fun.
yeah, the like the other month I kind of rediscovered that album, the Cameron Winter one.
Yeah.
And just fell in love with what is it?
Love Takes Miles.
Love Takes Miles,
Yeah.
man. Beautiful song. That whole album's crazy.
So good.
Number 4?
Number 4, best album covers.
That Cameron Winter album cover.
That's cool. Cool cover.
I
yeah.
love that
Yeah.
cover.
I don't know. I think like I'm having a really hard time with this. I as much as I design my own album artwork, and I really struggle with locating what I like about album artwork. Like I really know what I don't like, and I really know what pisses me off. Oh, this is a recent thought I had was I was looking at the album cover of that album. I think it's The Boxer by The National.
Oh yeah.
That's like it's like the black and white photo of. Apparently, it's them playing at their manager's wedding or like their producer's wedding.
Oh.
And so it's like this. It looks like a 100-year-old photo. It's this like incredible photo of like people dancing in this old ballroom. But I looked at that and I was like, that picture is exactly what that album sounds like, and I really like that. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to think of like the best album cover. So
Sure.
That's one recently that I noticed that I was like, that's a really good cover.
Yeah.
It's a really good idea for a photo.
Yeah, it's something that really matches the sound, like My Bloody Valentine's, Loveless.
Yeah, classic. I've done that one before.
All right, we're on the last one, right?
Yeah. This is number 5. A musical hot take.
I feel like you got some of those.
I've got lots of them. I don't know. I think like for a while I've been on the tip of like, I don't want to know your diary anymore. That's been my big one for a long time.
Oh, I think we talked about that.
I think I've done that
time.
before on this. I think now sometimes I just have moments where I'm like, I genuinely think that there's a lot of music that people get fired up about, and I just kind of low key think that they're lying about it. Like there is
like for cred, like street cred.
Not even. I think it's just like there's stuff that I don't know how it is successful, and I think I just like don't. There's just a lot of there's a lot of bands right now that have this kind of like Okay, this is what I was getting at. This is the broader version of the take. Is like, I do think that there's a lot of people making music right now that have, it's not that they don't have any taste, it's just that like we used to have a distinction of not necessarily good and bad, but we had a distinction of like cool and not cool, and that sounds so pretentious. But it's just,
I get it though.
It's interesting when you see bands that essentially make like frat guy music.
Yeah.
But then they're like, what are your biggest inspirations? It's like, oh, well, we all really love like Pine Grove and Townes Van Zandt.
Uh-huh.
And you're like, well, why don't you make that come through in your music, dude? Like,
Right.
why? It's like, you know, there's just like a lot of music that, there's a lot of bands. It's a very like local band thing.
For
where
sure.
It's like no matter what city you live in, if you're like, I wonder what the bands in my city sound like. They probably sound like a Strat that is just kind of like arpeggiating the whole time.
Yeah.
And like
A lot of noodling.
a lot of music that sounds like the first 2 EPs by Hippocampus, but stripped of any of like the swag or the personality.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or just like white guys playing blues.
That too.
Yeah.
And arguably playing it too but then they're always playing it too fast.
Uh-huh.
And they're always wearing shorts.
Always wearing shorts.
And
they're
they-
always salmon colored. If you're in the South.
Bars. And it's just like there's this whole thing where it's like, I just think that we need, I think the pandemic kind of hurt this. I think that like the TikTok effect of like everything is flattened. Like there's no context, there's no history, there's no sense of like people understanding the lineage of music of like this led to this, which led to this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you just have access to all of it at the same time. And you have no concept of like, this was like cool, this was popular, this was this way, this was that. And it's like, I don't know, it's just an odd thing to watch that context like all collapse. And there's just like guys doing like covers of like folk rock covers of Mac Miller songs in their flip-flops. And it's like, I don't know what this is. I like have no idea. It's just like sloppy. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I think about, it's not necessarily to that point, but I teach music to kids, and I have 2 like 12, 13-year-old boys who both wanted to learn 2 different Alex G songs. And they're like 12 or 13.
Yeah.
And it's like from the Trick album.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool as hell.
Yeah, it's great.
But it's also like, what was, like, this is an interesting introduction to somebody who, for most people, was, when it came out, a word of mouth. Like, your cool indie friend was hit to him because he was on, or he or she was on Bandcamp or whatever. But now it's like that some random algorithm just showed him.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that's necessarily bad, but
No,
it
I
is
mean,
just interesting to not have that context.
Yeah. And I mean, I think in some ways for the artists, it's often beneficial.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like, it is just odd. Like, I think that a lot of good can come from restraint, and a lot of musicians have access to the buffet of the entire history of recorded music all the time, and they get one of everything. And I kind of feel like in a moment where everything is everything, like nothing is distinct, nothing has like hard lines around it, nothing has like a sense of center or identity, especially a lot of like new young musicians like feel completely directionless. I just think it can be helpful to be like, I drew a box around my thing and I did that thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's just, sometimes it can benefit you to just like have rules.
Yeah, narrow your focus a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, Elijah Johnston, That's our time.
All right.
On that note, thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, man.
A favorite on this pod. Stupid Soul is out now, the new album via Strolling Bones. Go stream it. Go buy the record on vinyl. And are there any shows coming up you want to plug?
So many. Big tour in August and September.
Follow on Instagram.
Yes, follow on Instagram, ElijahJohnston.net. You can buy tickets. We'll be going all the way up to the, New York, a lot of East Coast shows, up to Midwest to Chicago, and then doing some dates down in like Florida and that kind of area in September. So, yeah.
Sweet. Go give the man a follow. Go listen to the music. Elijah Johnston, thanks again.
On that note, with Parker Whirling.